Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGenEd. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts, like the chart behind me, which is of ticker symbol MSOS, which is a cannabis ETF. I will also be going over a 2x leveraged cannabis ETF and 4 cannabis stocks here in this video. I'll be putting timestamps down below so you can skip to your ticker of interest. But I do think it will be valuable to kind of look at all of these tickers to just kind of evaluate the cannabis sector. And so, with that being said, I am going to start with MSOS because I think it will paint a broader picture on the cannabis sector. And yeah, so I have the most lines on this graph, and then the other charts are a little bit cleaner. And so with this chart, I did want to point out, well, I guess I should also point out that it did close on Friday, April 12th, at a price of $8.92, being down on the day by more than 7%. And yeah, I'll go over that and, why I think it might be at a significant level, but why I think it might be going lower. And also, I do want to point out that I apologize if I'm not editing this video. I'm working a lot this week and I just don't have that much time, so I apologize about that, but hopefully the information is valuable. But anyways, getting back to the chart, one thing that I did want to point out, I do have this green uptrending line here. Really, that is just to point out that we can see a higher low. Whereas if we look at the RSI, I have this horizontal line here that is showing that, this low was higher than this low. So while we were putting in higher lows in the price, we were putting in lower lows in the RSI, and that is bullish divergence. Following that bottom here in the price and the RSI, we moved up. And then you also might notice this red uptrending line showing that there are higher highs. Whereas if we look at RSI based on the 70 level marked here by the yellow dotted line, we can see that while we have this higher high formed in the stock price, we actually have lower highs in the RSI, and that is bearish divergence. Following that, we do see a dip down. And so now we are all wondering, where is price going to go to, whether it's with MSOS or, a specific cannabis stock. And so I have done a Fibonacci retracement here, but I did just include a few levels. And so, we can see the high here marked by the top of that at $10.96 with the low here at $7.30. And so this run up represents an upward move of about 50%. So that's a pretty nice gain there. And then the levels that I have marked on the retracement, I have the 618 marked here at $8.70. And then just below it, I added the 65% retracement, and that is at a price of $8.58. And so that range right there represents what is referred to as the golden pocket, and that is a level that is commonly retraced to, and that is in fact what we have retraced to, hitting a low on Friday of $8.61, so being right in there, right in that golden pocket. But if in case that does not hold and price does dip lower, I do have the 786 marked on the chart at a price of $8.08, being just above that psychological level of $8 a share. And interestingly, I do also have this gap here noted at the high of March 14th that was at a price of $7.87, but really the close of that day was at a price of $7.72. So that really is more of a proper gap fill. But I did want to note that, there is that gap to the downside right around just below that 786. So it is quite possible that price will continue lower, perhaps getting a wick down to fill the gap, but hopefully we do respect $8.08, that 786 level, getting no closes below it. But it is possible we will, so I do think that is a good thing to keep in mind. And one thing that we also might want to keep in mind, I did note this bullish divergence over here, and the reason why I drew this horizontal line here at 35.32, that is because that was the low hit on March 12th when we had the low in the price. And so let's see, I'm going to line that up so we can see the RSI, yes, 35.32. And so that is an important level to be paying attention to because that is the low here. And if we form a higher low in the stock price, but the RSI dips below 35.32 and price is higher than $7.30, that is then bullish divergence. That could be a great time to buy, just like it was here. So keep an eye on the RSI with MSOS and keep an eye on that price. Hopefully we can find a bottom right around $7.87, and this could be a good indicator for any cannabis stock, any stock in the sector, because this is an ETF that represents that. And with, this analysis that I've done that you can do, I do think it is pretty clear with the bullish and bearish divergence when it is good to buy, when it is good to sell, and we might be getting another indicator like that soon. So I do think it's a good one to keep an eye on. But then anyways, moving on to the next one on the list, which is MSOX. This is 2x leveraged cannabis ETF. I don't have as many lines drawn on this one, but I did want to point out that with MSOS, we see a higher high over here, but we don't see a higher high in MSOX. And I think that's an example of when dealing with leverage, 2x leverage with this one, your gains aren't always as great as you might expect. So I do think that is something to consider. You don't necessarily make a higher high, whereas you would if you're not leveraged. I've definitely noticed that trading natural gas and ETFs that track that. And so, I do feel that is going to be the same with cannabis. And so if you see a higher high in MSOS, you may not see that in MSOX. So keep that in mind. And also, I do think that is good to be pointing out because there was no bearish divergence here. You had lower lows in the stock price, also lower lows in the RSI. There was no indication that price would be going down, but there was with MSOS. So I think it's a great one to keep an eye on. But anyways, MSOX closed on Friday, April 12th, at a price of $4.81, being down a whopping 17.07% on the day, as you can see with this big red candle. And the Fibonacci retracement that I've done here looks like it went from the low here at $3.52 up to the high of $7.48, representing a 113% swing to the upside. But now we are pulling back, and we have closed below the 65% level, just below $5 a share. So that would be at $4.90.6. We are unfortunately lower than that. And so if we cannot reclaim right around $5 a share, or ideally getting above the 618 at $5.03 per share, if we can't start to get closes above that next week, I do think price could be going lower to the 786 at $4.36.7. But we also do have a gap to the downside, and so the high on March 14th was at a price of $4.05, or right around $4 being a psychological level. It is quite possible we could be going down there, so do keep that in mind. But with this, while with MSOS, there was a 50% return, that's pretty nice. But MSOX would offer, more than double that, as we see here. But I think it's good to wait to be buying the dip on something like this for when something like MSOS is giving us a bottoming signal like bullish divergence. So if one is interested in this 2x leverage, I would keep an eye on MSOS before entering this, waiting for that bottoming signal. We have not seen it yet, and I do think there's plenty of downside to go with this. And just like while this did not hit higher highs like MSOS did, MSOX made a lower high. It may also make a lower low, so do keep that in mind. This may retrace to below $3.50, so be cautious with that. But now, anyways, moving on to the stocks, I'm going to first start with TLRY, ticker symbol TLRY, and that is because this is the one with the largest market cap. And I'm just going to work my way down the market cap list. And so TLRY closed on Friday, April 12th at a price of $1.82, being down on the day 4.21%. And this is all following their earnings report, which came out on April 9th. And so I do feel like this earnings report was a catalyst for the downside for a lot of these cannabis stocks. And I feel that way because Tilray is such a large market cap. I do think it has a lot of weight. And so I do think, it is a good one to be paying attention to for those reasons. And, so looking at the retracement that I have up here, we have already retraced to below the 786, which is at a price of $1.89.3. And, well below that, notably below that, I guess I should say, being, 7 cents, over 7 cents below that. But actually being, up 1 penny in the after hours, so I can't say that. But, with that being said, where do I see this going? Hopefully it can reclaim $1.89.3. And I should say also too, I actually had a small position, very small position. I trimmed on the way up right around $2 a share. I did not expect it to go this high. But when it did, I felt that it would be returning to around $2 a share, and I started building a position. A little bit bigger than I had before, but still not very large. I just like to be able to maneuver. And so, and with that being said, I look forward to adding if it does go lower, or, adding if I have some cash on the side. But, with that being said, I do think it could be going lower, while not to a fib level. I do think it could be going down to $1.70. And the reason why I think that is just because if we do take a step back in the chart, we do see, that served as a bottom over here, did get, some fake out breaks below it over here. But really that did serve as a lot of support in this region. Also, over here before this big run up, it did act as support, but we did break below it. It was acting as resistance. It's kind of rough over here, but especially on, let's see, October 27th, the low of the day was $1.71. So yeah, I just think that level has acted as some notable support also just recently before this big run up. So I do think price could be returning there. Hopefully it doesn't go back down to $1.60. I would like to see higher lows in Tilray. And on that note, let's see, looking at the RSI, we do have the low here that was at 35.83. And so if we do dip below that in the RSI, but the stock price is above $1.60, that would then be bullish divergence, just like with MSOS that I was talking about. If we do see bullish divergence in Tilray, then that is, again, RSI not going, let's see. That is RSI going below 35.83. Currently, it is at 40.08. So if it dips below 35.83, if it goes to 35, let's say, and the stock price is above $1.60, that is potentially bullish divergence. So I would basically look for a bounce after that, confirming that the bottom is in, and then that could result in a move like we saw over here, which was an 85% move to the upside. So that's, I would say with Tilray, probably less risky than MSOX because Tilray is not dealing with leverage, but you also get more of a return than with MSOS. So Tilray does seem pretty intriguing in that sense, especially with it being a larger cap cannabis stock, cannabis company. I do think that this one is probably the safer bet of all of them, but with that being said, your returns are probably not going to be as good. Your losses probably not so bad as well, especially that now that we've retraced more than 78.6% from the high here. Or really from this retracement returning to that level. But then next on the list, I'll be going over Canopy Growth Corporation, ticker symbol CGC. And so this one has the second largest market cap. Actually, let's see, market cap. Yeah, it's actually pretty close to SNDL. So I'm sorry about this, fussing with this. But yeah, market cap, now I was reading the wrong thing. Market cap, 710 million. So it is about 200 million larger than Sundial. Anyways, back to the chart. I don't have too much drawn on this one, really just have that Fibonacci retracement. But before I get into that, CGC closed on Friday, April 12th at a price of $7.80, being down just over 4.25%, exactly 4.29% on Friday, and went up actually though almost 3% in the after hours, being right around $8.03 with the close of the after hours trading. And looking at the chart here, we do have this retracement going from the low here, $2.75, up to the high at $11.57. And this is actually the one that had the largest move to the upside, 320%. So pretty crazy there. And I actually added ACB to this list because I thought that one had the largest move to the upside. But actually, CGC's was the largest of these four stocks. And so I find that pretty interesting also that it's not the smallest market cap. So, it does seem like there's a lot of potential up moves for this company for, swing trading or holding in the long term. But also, this has not pulled back as much as the ETFs or TLRY. So I do think there could be more downside to this, like going to the 618 at a price of $6.12, or the 65% retracement at $5.84, or right around $6. That would be right in that golden pocket. Maybe that would mark the bottom if this did pull back to that level, while all of the other ones were pulling back to 786. So maybe this one doesn't have as much of a retracement. That is quite possible. But if it does, returning to the 786 would be coming down to a price of $4.64. So that is one to keep in mind. And also, I think I forgot to mention this with TLRY, but thinking about these levels, we do have some consolidation here, these three candles overlapping in the golden pocket region. But if we do come down to the 786, we actually do have kind of a little bit of a flat, a little bit of consolidation here with, basically tops of these candles right around that 786 level. And, right around $4.50. So I could see price settling out around there. And it does look like, we do have some consolidation over here. So maybe coming down to $5 a share, we do have, in this region right over here, a lot of tops that could be acting as support. So that is something to keep in mind. So I would say right now, CGC looks a little bit risky because it could be coming down a lot more as the others have. But, it also may just not be pulling back that much. But after this 320% move, I feel like it's got to probably pull back some more. So I do feel like this is one to be cautious with, but maybe it's one to, have a little bit of fun with, because there's potentially more upside with it. Maybe a little bit more volatility to the upside, less volatility to the downside. I did want to throw that up there. I'm just going to go back to TLRY for a second because, actually it's already retraced to these levels, so I don't have much to add to that. But I did want to point out how these levels do coincide with, actually looking at the golden pocket here, that does correspond with consolidation over here. So that might very well be acting as support if the price does come down to right around $6 a share. But anyways, now I'm going to move on to not Sundial, SNDL, ticker symbol SNDL. And so SNDL closed at a price of $2 on Friday, April 12th, being down 4.31% on the day. And here we can see this big move up over 100%, just about 103% from the low of $1.30 up to the high of $2.67. And again, just like CGC, SNDL has not retraced to the golden pocket or the 786. And so looking at those levels, do they stand out? So the golden pocket right here, we do have a little bit of consolidation just below it. So it does seem like that could be acting as a little bit of a shelf. And the prices there, the 618 at a price of $1.82.3, and the 65% level at $1.78. Let's see. Right around $1.80, I guess you could think. Maybe price will be returning there. But the 786, that is at a price of $1.59.3. And that does correspond with, some tops over here. Maybe there would be some good support if price did return to that level. Could be a great dip buying opportunity. And then looking at the golden pocket here, that does correspond with this peak over here. So might very well find some support around that level. And is there anything I need to add about this? I don't think so. It doesn't, I feel like there's not as much, data with SNDL or CGC like there is with TLRY. and the ETFs. And I'm really just talking about thinking about bullish divergence, but maybe I just haven't looked into the other ones as much because I am personally invested in TLRY. I am paying a little closer attention to it. But anyways, now that I've gone over Sundial, the last one on the list is Aurora Cannabis, ticker symbol ACB. And so I had thought this one ran up the most, but it actually only ran up 212% from the low of $2.84 up to the high of $8.88. But still, 212%, that's a great move, but it has retraced some, closing on Friday, April 12th at a price of $6.60, being down about 3.37%, or exactly that, on Friday, but coming up about 1.67% in the after hours. And so this chart, I feel like, is pretty interesting because I want this to be a bull flag, this consolidation here, since we have had a lot of up moves, especially with this big green candle on April 3rd, going up on the day about 44%, almost 44%, and then consolidating over here. So that makes me think it's a bull flag, but one thing that is concerning about that is that consolidation formed after a down move from $8.88 to right around $7.30. And we have seen a bunch of wicks to the upside there, not really being able to close above, the close on April 3rd was $7.21. So we have not been able to see any closes above that level. So that does kind of suggest to me that there aren't really buyers, or not enough buyers stepping in above that level. So I do feel like this is a bear flag, even though, it does look like this big green candle consolidation to the right, but really it's following a down move and then consolidation. So I do think this is kind of like a fake out bull flag. It's actually a bear flag, but I'm not the best at calling those, so do take that with a grain of salt. But, considering that it has not come down to the 618, I do think that this could be returning to that level, and so that would be at $5.15, or the 65% retracement at $4.95, really just being right around $5 a share, that being right in that golden pocket. So I do think that could happen. Also, we do have a lot of consolidation over here, as it has been moving up, consolidating, moving up and down and consolidating. And so these tops over here could be acting as support, and so I could see it returning to that golden pocket, potentially finding support there. But if it does not, the 786 is at a price of $4.13, and that does look like it corresponds with some consolidation over here, so I definitely do think that could be some support if the $5 region does not hold. But then one thing that is concerning about this one is there is this gap to the downside right around $3.19. And so that was the high hit on March 15th, a little bit of a gap there. So I'm wondering if that might get filled. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that with this one. This one also having the smallest market cap. And so I should, I guess, go over all of the market caps really briefly before I close this video. So the market cap of Aurora Cannabis is right around 360 million. And then moving up, SNDL has a market cap of right around 526 million. Then next on the list is Canopy Growth Corporation with a market cap of 710 million. And then TLRY has the largest of 1.41 billion, and I believe when it hit the high here, it was right around 2 billion. And so this is definitely the biggest one, and in that sense, I do feel like it is the safer bet. But it's not going to have as big of moves to the upside. 85% here versus CGC going up 320%. But given that this is the second largest market cap of the four on this list, with a move like that, maybe this is worth the risk. I'm not really sure, but I do think the best thing to be doing is keeping an eye on the MSOS. And also, I did not look into it before putting this video out, but I am aware of the possibility of Canada releasing some news on the taxation of cannabis. And I do think that will be, affecting the sector. Also, keeping in mind the possibility of cannabis being moved from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug, and this being an election year. I do think that candidates will likely be talking about cannabis, legalizing it, and or making it more accessible for either recreational or medicinal purposes. And I do think that some states will probably be legalizing it as well. So, I do think that there's a lot of bullish stuff on the horizon for cannabis, the sector in general. And I do think that this chart, the MSOS, could be a great one to keep an eye on. Whatever stock you're interested in trading, whether you want to do leverage with MSOX or if you want to just get some exposure to the cannabis sector, I do think that MSOS is a great one to keep an eye on and to look for bullish divergence, just like we saw here. That did lead to a 50% move in this ETF, whereas it did lead to a 320% move in CGC and other gains in the other stocks. So, I do think that is good to keep in mind. But, I do have to say, I apologize for not editing this, but I do hope you enjoyed my thoughts. But, that's what they are, my thoughts. And if you did find them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the stream tomorrow night. Take care, guys.